Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm about 10 or 15, about 13 minutes early. That's okay. You can always catch it on the back end and on the front end, excuse me. And see who we've got here. Carmen, glad to have you aboard. And I'm going to mute your sound. And so I don't have to hear anything from the background, but we're going to get started here. And there may be some folks who are still working on the exam. And if there are, you can always, of course, come at the start, scroll back and start actually from the beginning. So I'm going to forge ahead so we can get out or finish off a little bit earlier than we usually do. This is week 10, and we had some assignments due. First, the XLS case 11, which we should have uploaded that already. And then we had exam 2, part 1, which was more of those types of objective exam items covering a range of things, pretty much what was covered in exam 1. And then exam 2, part 2, and I gave you some instructions, okay? And I asked you to take that set of data, so showing soft drink sales and the temperature of the start of the game, in other words, degrees Fahrenheit, and organize them, okay? And then develop a chart. And then to take the data from that table and put it into a spreadsheet, and write a formula that will identify the different types of sales volumes, low volume, medium volume, and high volume. Now, the only thing that was different was just simply the numbers, and I show you in 2 examples here. And provide these are YouTube videos. It shows an example for the first part of that exam 2, part 2, and then the second part of that for exam 2, part 2. So it'll give you an idea of what it was after, and this, of course, where you should upload your work. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what we've got going, what we have in front of us. Like I said, I'm sure we'll have others join. I'm starting early. Now, next week is XLS 12. That's Truman Assembly. We've done that. We've done all the Excel files, so those should already be loaded. And then I want you to go over to Teradata University Network. And I'd like you to go over there and log in and just kind of get familiar with it. Okay? So I will want you to do that. And then I'm going to unpublish because I keep having, but you can see this here. Well, you can't see this, but I want you to go and log in over at Teradata University Network. You'll be doing some work over there. And the password is analytics. Now, week 12, we'll be uploading the 4 access cases that are due. We've done 3 of them, and we're going to do the 4th one tonight. And there's a class on Thanksgiving. And then on week 14, you have an XLS function paper. I've got in the syllabus, I give you some pointers on that paper. And because we're operating this a little different, I probably will not do any random call presentations. As I usually do when I have everybody all assembled, but but the paper is due and you'll want to take a look at it. I think I've got some instructions there. Yeah, the detail. Now, again, I'm not going to be doing random call presentations because I'm running this like a hybrid version, but the paper is due and the syllabus has details on that. And let me go over here for a moment to the course syllabus and we'll talk about it. Okay, and that's going to be over here in the files area. And see who else joined us here. Glad to see you, Allison. And I'm over here and we'll find the syllabus. And when all else fails, just try doing a search. Here it is. And the syllabus will give you some directions, okay, on what I'm after in terms of the Excel function. And now, I mentioned a lot of things here about individual presentations and so forth. No. What I do want you to do is to choose an XLS function, okay, and do a short paper or presentation on it. I don't want it too long, okay, and I give you an idea of the functions I consider rudimentary. So I don't want you to work on these. I prefer you select a financial, statistical, or database function. You can even use you can use a function we've used in a prior case. I don't have any problem with that, okay? But I want you to just basically make a short paper that shows me, you know, the why you would use the function, okay, and an example of its use. And I really would like to see a spreadsheet that shows that I know. If you don't do a spreadsheet, do screenshots of the spreadsheet, and I'm okay. So that's due. But this business about doing presentations and all that, don't worry, we're not going to do that because I'm running this hybrid. So all you have to really do is the paper, and hopefully there will be many who will listen and will not get all panicky about doing a presentation. You're just going to do a paper, and like I said, the instructions are there in terms of the function. I want to know why you chose the function you did, some uses of it, and there are a lot of different resources there about those functions that they're available. There are all kinds of things on the internet. There are all kinds of things at Office, and so I will be expecting just to show me, let's say you choose a VLOOKUP. Why would you use it? How would you use it? And then just some print screens of something embedded in a Word doc or a file itself, an Excel file. That's up to you. So we got that going on, and I'll just walk us on through the rest of what we have coming up. So we're right here this week. Then you've got these two you've already done, and then the 16th. Okay, these 4 access cases are done. Now we've done the first 3. We're going to work on 4 tonight, and then next week we'll work on 5 and 6. So by the 30th, and then the spatial, and also have a spatial exercise here for you. That's due the 30th of November. Talk about it for a minute, okay? And I think I'll go out to the modules. I'm sure that's where I have it. Instructions for it. All right. Go back up into the files section. Do a search. As I mentioned, here's the spatial analysis exercise, and I ask you to use Google Maps and go through a series of steps. This lets you see a little bit some of those tools that are out there, mapping tools. So I've got just these points right here. Just follow each of those steps. That's what I'm after. Let's see what else might have that's coming up. And let's see who else has joined us. I'm glad to see Tyler here as well as Carmen and Allison. I did start a little bit early. Hi. So don't worry about it. You can always catch it on the front end of the video. Now, just kind of going through some housekeeping to make sure. So now, as far as the XLS papers, presentations, don't worry about that. I know that we're running this hybrid, and so we're not going to do it, but I do want the paper. and the direct and some instructions and guidance over there in the syllabus. Then we move on into the final, and you have part 1 and part 2. Okay, these are due at the beginning of the final exam period. So final exam part 1, access, and part 1, the Excel, are due by the start of the final exam period, and then part 2, 3, and 4, and part 2, 3, and 4 are due at the end of the final exam period. Now, if you go in and you take a look at the university schedule, it says night classes have their final exam on the night of the class. So look at this for a second, and if there are not instructions in here, it's going to be over in the files section. And here's the final exam, part 1. Okay, that's final exam part 1. And then let's see here. Part 1, and I should have some instructions for part 2. Let me go over to the syllabus. If I don't, I'll load them up. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Parts 2, 3, and 4 are exams. So there's 2 pieces to final exam part 1, the access and the Excel. That's due at the start of the final exam period. And then parts 2, 3, and 4 are quizzes. So that kind of lines you out on what we've got going on. Again, spatial analysis exercise, that's over in the files section, directions to it. The function paper, really just a short presentation is what I'm after. That's due, the instruction for that are over in the syllabus, and so you'll need to go over into the files and take a look at that. Now, tonight we're going to take a look at case number 4. Like I said, I got started early, so we wouldn't have to stretch it out too late tonight. And then, as usual, what I'll do is post a second piece of this. I'm going to go to the announcements for just a second and show you what we've gotten done. And I have the screencast for October 26th, part 1, part 2. And of course, you've got the invitation for the screencast tonight. And so we're going to work on access case 4, okay, and then we'll move on, and then we'll finish it off. I'll finish it off on a second video that I'll post, probably over the weekend or something like that. Now, we may even get through it tonight pretty quickly. The database case 4 starts over on page 191, and this is in the Solvit book, and it's the Cascade Pharmacy case. So let's go over to the files, okay, and we're going to get the Solvit student files, and we have the student files. Now I want to show you the student files have the skeleton file, okay, and when you come down, you're going to see Solvit Chapter 5. That's the access database, or that's really a warehouse that we've got there. And we'll just pop this over here, okay? And then we'll open it up, and we'll see the table that we're going to use for case number 4. And there it is, it's Cascade. And so when we're finished with this, you can upload it as access case number 4 where you need to upload it. I'll go over some additional things probably, but the main gist of it is you'll have it done. Now, I want to look for a moment here to see if I had one that I had done that we could save ourselves a little bit of time. And I'll take a look and see if there is. And it would be the Cascade. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna unpublish this, so publish it. And so when you go over to the files, you should see an access file called Cascade 1. It's this one right here. It's an access file, and I'm going to download it. Okay, and then I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to save it as an access and save it as database on my desktop so you can upload it easier. And it's called Cascade 1. So make sure you do that. You save it to your desktop and it's there. Now, if you want, you could go back to the skeleton file and do the work. And I would encourage you to do that if you really want to. You have this video to look and see, and each of these cases have a little bit of a twist to them, a little bit of a different skill or whatever that you're going to use. And so, you know, I like to go ahead and have this. If something goes kablooey on us with its internet connectivity or whatever, you've got something there to upload. Now, if you look over at page 191 in the Solvit textbook, that gives us some information about this pharmacy. And they want to create a transaction processing system to report government reporting requirements. This company's a pharmacy, and they're told they have to report about certain types of drugs that they sell. They have to provide a report to the state. If you look at the bottom of page 191, you're going to see the government. These are the types of drugs that the government wants to monitor, and that's the very, very last sentence of page 191. Sedatives, analgesics, antihypertensive, diuretics, and anti-inflammatories, and antidepressives. Everybody's favorite drugs, but these are of interest. Now, if you go to the chart over on page 192, you're going to see a drug code and a drug class. And we just read off the drug codes, and F3 is sedatives. You'll see it there, okay? Z5, that's analgesics. Z4, which is over on that table on page 192, Z4 are antihypertensives. And Z3 are diuretics. B3, anti-inflammatory drugs, and B6 are antidepressives. Okay, so those are drugs that are of interest to the government. There are 6 of them. Okay, so you'll see that if you're following along with the book. Now, let's open up the Cascade file for just a minute. And I did, and you should all just go ahead and download the Cascade 1. I've published it in the files, and that's the one I want to work out of. Okay. What I prefer to do tonight is to get us through this, and then do a second video cast this weekend for you guys, and do number 5, so we can kind of stay ahead. I don't want us to get too far behind. This is what we call this is what we would call a transaction table or a sales table. And what this does is this shows us, okay, the date the drugs were sold, the drug code, the name of the drug, the supplier, and the tabs and the milligrams per tab. Okay, so this is just a listing of all of those, and because it involves filling a prescription, this is what we would call a transaction table. So that's what we've got going on here. This is, and you know, this is also, I think this may be fleshed out more than what's in the skeleton file as far as the table itself, but I'm okay with that. Now, we have a series of tasks, that they ask us to do, And that's all over on page 193. And there's some business there at the bottom of 192 and the top of 193 about, you know, they need to do this and how are they going to get this stuff all accounted for, etc. So they decide to do the try to use a database to keep track of all of this. Okay. Now they give us 6 tasks. All right. And then we're going to talk a little bit about one of the other things that they ask us to do, okay, over at the, well, really at the bottom, okay, of page 193 and at the top of 194, okay? And so we'll talk about that a little bit. And part of that is to introduce you to the idea of data flow diagrams. All righty. So let's do that here real quickly, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you go into your computer, okay, and you go in and you open Microsoft Word, okay, and you can open it up, and you're going to see a thing that you're going to see a tab called Insert. And with that Insert tab, you can insert shapes. All right, and if you come down the shapes, okay, you're going to see the shapes for a flow chart. Each one of those shapes has a specific meaning, and a flow chart is just simply a way that we use some symbols and arrows and the directions of them to show us the flow of data. And here you see that in each of those, the flow chart, there's a process. This would be an alternate process. This would be a decision point. Okay, this would be data. These would be some predefined processes. Each of these have a particular meaning and use. So one of the things that they ask us to do, and this is over on page 194, they say at the end of the week, a number of management reports are produced. Suggest you think these reports, but up above that that paragraph it says draw a data flow diagram, first level only, describing cascades in the system. Okay, and they tell you include major processes, data files, etc. So that one's going to be a little bit of a challenging one because I'm going to ask you to go to walk through, okay, how that process is fun. Now, in the middle of page 194, they depict the process, and they tell us in word by word, step by step, how a drug is handled. And so I want you to use the flow chart symbols to build a very simple data flow diagram. I expect it to be incredibly good because you've probably never done anything like this before. That's okay, but I want you to be aware of it. Now, that being said, let's take a look at Cascade for a minute. We'll open it back up. Now we've got the date, the drug code, the drug name, the supplier, the tabs, the milligrams per tab. There's something missing from this that makes it a little bit crazy, and that would be any type of ID. Now, I want to show you something, okay? Here's one of the problems we get into if we don't create an ID. Look at this for the 2nd of November, okay? There's the drug, okay? Then we have the drug code. Everything's good so far, but look what happens on the 7th. We sell the same one. So what they're trying to do is use what we would call a dual key, but they're not doing it successfully because you've got multiple transactions occurring, sometimes on the same day, sometimes within days. So you don't know what you've got here. So we always want to make sure that we have a unique record, and we're going to assume these are. So click on the design, okay, and come under milligrams per tab, and we're going to put trans ID, TR, and that means transaction ID, and that's going to be an auto number. Why? It'll just keep generating that, okay? we're going to do that. Then we're going to make it the primary key. I'll just click right on here, and I can do this one of two ways. I can do it with a right click, or I can come up above on the ribbon and do it there. Okay. Now it's going to ask us to save this file, and so we'll save the table. Okay. And we've got the transaction ID all the way over here. So let's go back down to design view, okay, and move it up to the top. So let's just grab it, and then we'll just have to put your cursor on it, and then you'll put it right up. Now we have everything lined out. The transaction ID, the date, the drug code, the drug name, etc. So we have all of these unique transactions. When someone got drugs and they bought something from the pharmacy, boom, we've got them. Let's look at the view up here. I'll say, you want to save it? We'll go, yeah. And there we are. Again, this is an issue of making sure that we have unique records. Because if the government comes in and they see something without unique records, whether there's something funny or not, they're going to automatically say something's not right. This forces the table, and this forces you to input a new number, for every transaction, it has to have a unique ID. Now, just for grins, let's close this off for a minute, close the table, okay? And we're going to click create, okay? And so are we going to create a form? Yes, we are. And we're going to do a form, click on more forms, okay? And click on split form. Now, what this will do is, and we use forms for a couple of reasons. First of all, if I come down to the very bottom, at the very bottom here, you see I can navigate. I can do a free text search. I can navigate record by record or first and last. I can add records if I want to. And so I'd have this form, and I would want to keep it. And there the authors, as you do, say, what would be an improvement on this? And this form would be an improvement. Now, you say, why did you choose this? Well, I'm going to scroll this up, okay? And this allows me to see, as we make changes, in other words, we add transactions, okay? Then what that does is it lets us see also how the table plays itself out, so we can check to see if the table is changing along in concert with each entry in the form. Okay, so that would be an improvement. We'll save that, and we'll see. We're going to call this form name cascade is good enough. And you should see a little form icon. Okay. Now, if you look to the left there in the shutter, and you could see, you're going to see the different icons. That's for a table. These are queries. This is for a form, and this is for a task. You see each, or a report. So you'll see those little icons for each one of them. So we've already made an improvement in this thing. We've added a primary key, a real one, and we've added a form. Okay. So we've done part of what they ask us to do. Now, here at the halfway point, basically on page 193, they start to give us some tasks. And the very first one that the authors give us is a little bit tricky. Okay? And here's the first. It says, design a query to filter out all the drugs not of interest to the government. Print the data sheet. Okay? And they said to filter out all the drugs not of interest. That's a tricky way of saying choose everything that is of interest. So that's what we're going to do. So I come over and take a look at this query for a second, and we'll open it up. Okay? And these are the drugs that are of interest to the government. Okay? You say, well, wait a minute here. Look at question number 1 and see what they're saying. And the authors include this, and I like this number 1 because this is the kind of squirrely stuff you'll run into at work. I don't want to have any drugs that are not of interest to the state. What they're really saying is, I want the listing of all the drugs transactions that are of interest to the state. But one of the things you'll have to become is semi-clairvoyant and a really good listener, when you have a boss that wants to, when you go out there, if you're working with a database, you have a boss that starts wanting to do ad hoc or serendipitous queries. Usually you're just going to be doing reports, but you'll have them come and ask for crazy stuff. Like when we did the Pacific thing, we did Pacific Trading, which was that Excel case, and we basically had to, we had to answer some really strange questions like, what month do people buy the most peaches in Oregon or something like that. So we've got this, we've got this first query, and we're going to go down under the hood. Here's our answers, okay? And we're going to go down to the design field, okay? And I'll click up here on top. We'll go into the design, all right? Now, add this up, pull this down a little bit. This is the second layer in Excel, and really the second layer in any database. Now, when you're at work one of these days and you're working on a database, and you will one way or the other, you will probably not be thinking about the fact that underneath this is the data. But we've got this, and then we'll go back up top to see the data. But before the data sheet can be created and the results can be created, we got to do the query. So let's look at this query here for just a minute, okay? And we have the table, okay? And we're going to get the drug code, all right? And this is from the Cascade table, and we're going to sort them in ascending order, okay, alphabetically, and then by number. Then we're going to get the drug name and the supplier and the tabs and the milligrams per tab. Okay? Now, if I wanted to, like total milligrams prescribed, I could take the tabs times the milligrams per tab and get that product if I needed to do that. So I could just come over here to the notepad and write that out. Let's just do this. Let's go over here and open up a notepad. Okay, and I'm going to put total dispensed. Okay, and I'm going to put that would be, and I'll put a bracket there, and it's going to be tabs, and it'll be times MG underscore PER underscore tab. If I don't put the name of those fields in exactly as they are in that table, I'll get a parameter error. So we're going to get the total dispensed. So think about it for a moment. How many tabs? And instead of total dispense, let's do this. Let's put total MG dispensed. In fact, I'm going to call it total milligrams dispensed. Sooner or later, somebody's going to want this type of information. So now I'm going to take that. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to put it right here in this next CFD1, and let's see what we get. And there we are. We can check the math, okay, and make sure we're right. And what I usually do is, just to make sure the math is correct, I'll choose something easy. Like I see 45 times 20 is 900. Okay, I'm good. All right, so we know the total milligrams dispensed. Now they don't ask us for that, but sooner or later someone will, and we want to know that anyway, okay? There may be some cost issue going on, or maybe, who knows, but we want to know the total amount, total milligrams dispensed. So we just did a little expression, okay? And we've done this in the task 1, and we're good to go. So we've chosen all of the drugs that are of interest to the government, okay? And we've also done an expression by doing total milligrams dispensed. And we can just squiggle that out just a hair more. Okay? No big deal there. So we'll close it off. I will save the changes, yeah, and we've got task number 1. Okay? So task 1 was worded kind of crazy, but on the other hand, once you stop and think about it, then you say, okay. Now here's the second one, second task. This is the bottom, page 193. They say design and print a summary report to present to the state government each quarter. Include only the drug total usage and the subtotal usage for each of the drugs, targeted drug codes. It should be sorted by drug code, then by drug name. Okay, that's a mouthful and a brainful. Okay, so let's kind of break this down. They want a summary report, okay, and they want the total drug usage, okay, and then subtotal usage for each of those targeted drug codes. And they want it sorted by drug code and by drug name. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a query, and then once we've done the query, we're going to use it as the basis for a report. So let's look at task 2 here for just a second, okay? And we'll open it up, okay? And we have all of the drugs that we've sold that are of interest to the government. We have the drug code, the drug name. We have the tabs, okay? And they call this total usage, where I think we had already done a better, had already provided a better caption or name for this field, but that's okay. All right, so we've got this done. Now, then it's okay, easy enough. And then they say, okay, now we want to present the drug usage and then subtotal usage for each of the state's targeted drug codes. Well, for that, we want to do a report, okay? And so we're going to go into the report function, okay? And let's save these changes, yes. Let's look at the task number 2 report. Let's open it up, okay? Now we've called it Total Government Usage Report, okay? And we've got the drug code, okay? The drug name. We got a total usage, okay? And then we got their total usage, and we also have a subtotal. And it runs all the way till it gives us a grand total. Now, I'm going to close this off for just a second. Now let's go back to task 2, and we're going to play around with it. And let's click, pardon me, let's click create. Let's go to the report wizard. I'm sorry. And I want to work on the query task 2, and I want to get everything. Okay. So we did the report wizard, and we got everything out of task 2. I'm going to click next. Now, they're in chapter 1, page 193 at the bottom on task number 2. They present for each quarter, okay, include only the total drug usage and the subtotal usage for each of the state's targeted drug. It's sorted by drug code, then by drug name. All right, I'm going to do a grouping. I'm going to choose drug code, okay, and I'll go. Also, I want to do drug name. Okay. Now, if you see here at the bottom right, you'll see a thing that says grouping options. And do I want these done? Yeah, I want them normal. So does the drug code and then the drug name. So we're going to get like drug code, and you could even see it, those of you here or those of you out there, you could see drug code and then drug name, supplier, etc. So I'm going to click next. Now, there are some summary options that they want, and they want this each quarter. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to get the, let's see, we wanted a date for this. Let's back out. Let's just cancel this. So we're going to start over. Let's see. Click on Report Wizard. Let's do this again. And I want to look at something for a minute. Because we want the date. So milligrams dispensed, and they want us to do the dates. So let's go into the design. Well, let's do this. Let's go to task 1, open it up. And let's go down to the design area. Okay? So we're going to go back here, just cancel what we were working with that report, because we need to add in, they want the time element. So we need to add in the date. Then we'll run it. Okay, then we've got the date. Okay, we're good shape there. Okay? I added date because when we look at task 2, they're going to want us to do it by quarter. So we're in good shape now. So we're going to save this and then close it off. Now we're ready to go back and click create, and we'll do the report wizard. And we're going to get everything out of that query task 2. Okay? Now I'm going to click next. And they want this sorted by drug code. So far, so good. Drug name. And they want this grouping options. We're good there. And we'll click next. Let me go back here for a minute now and see if I want, and I want the date. Let's see if I put it over there as a grouping option, what it'll do for us. Okay. Now, let's click on this date by month. We'll click next. And let's see here. We're going to get this by month. Now we want the tabs. Subtotal usage, reach stage, target drug codes. All right. We want the detail and the summary for the total usage. And we'll click OK. And we'll click next. And we'll click next. And then we'll look at the report. Let's see what we got here. Now this gives us by month, which is a little bit of a squirrely deal. So what we may have to do, let's click on the taskbar, and let's put layout view. Then click on the date. And I think what we may have to do is just go back in and group it by those quarters. So I'm going to do this. Just destroy this. Okay? We'll get there. We got task 2. Let's open that up. Let's do this again. Because I remember it. Well, I forget when I work at this, I've got to do this by, let's do it by date. Okay? And then we'll do drug code. Oh, wait, forget. We want all the fields. Let's grab them all. Click next. Now I'm going to do my grouping. Where's date at in here? Okay. I'm going to group it by date. Okay. We're a date by month grouping options, and that's it. Let me tell you what I just got through doing here. I forgot that if I'm going to do grouping, if I want to get like monthly, quarterly, etc., I need to start with the date by month or go into the design view, which is a little bit tricky, and change it to quarters. We might as well do it right up top. Okay, and you'll see the date and the grouping intervals, and we're going to do it by quarter. Okay, so it'll be date by quarter. Then we're going to do drug code, and then we're going to do drug name. Okay, and we'll click next. And our summary options will be, we want the total usage, and it says detail and summary, and we'll click OK. Now away we go, and let's see what this looks like. And it's probably going to be less than a masterpiece, but not too bad. Now this gives us by quarter, okay, by drug code, by drug name, what was sold, and we'll want to go into the layout view on this and play around with it a little bit, okay? And as I've said before, you've heard me grouse about this all the time. This can be a mess to deal with, and this would be the tabs. What is a something else? Milligrams per tab. In retrospect, now if you want to turn this in, that's fine with me, because you just have to pretty it up a little bit. In retrospect, what I would have done was I would have, instead of this being in landscape, portrait, I would put it in landscape. It'd be much better. But you know, we could spend the next hour moving this around. See, here we are, milligrams per tab, and then tabs. Okay. So that's not bad. We have it by quarter. If we want to, we can come over here to pretty it up a little bit, click on quarter, and then let's go over to the home, and we'll let's see if we can get this jewel to look, put a bold on it. There we go. Okay, and as you see, each of the quarters are showing up, and we get subtotals and we get sums. It would just be a matter of going in and labeling them a little bit better. So if you've got this, I'm good. Okay, and so we have this task 2. Now this is the one that's really pretty. Okay, it looks really nice, etc. It took some doing to get it. If you're interested, you say, okay, well, what have I got? How did that kind of come about? Click on Database Tools at the top, and then come over and see Object Dependencies. Okay, and it's going to show the objects that this table depends upon, report, and what depends on it. And it's solely dependent upon that, well, as none. That's weird. Yeah. Well, I hate the report function in Access. Okay. And probably what you'd be better off, you'll hear me say this many times, take the query and dump it in Excel. Then use the grouping patterns in there if you want. You can do them as well here, but this is just a little bit more work. So we've done task number 2, okay? And we've given them that again. Here's a report. It shows us the government usage. Now, if I click on this and I go down to the design view, all right, this is where things get a little bit sketchy. You say, what do you mean? All right, the design view, pretend all the content on there is wiped off and say, okay, what have I got? Okay, what you have is a series of little quadrants with little dots that a designer can use to get everything just exactly the size they want it to look. Okay, now here at the design view, you have a couple of things. First of all, here's a page header. This is a label for your page. Then inside here is what we call an unbound text box that has data. Okay? Then we come down to more detail. Well, this is a header, a page header, excuse me, then a drug code header. Then we have the drug name header, and then we have the detail. Those are labels up there. And then the detail here, these are what we call an unbound text box. And if I come over here and I click on the properties, I'll right-click it, I'll see all the properties for total usage. Its format, the data, the event, and any other issues involving it. So we have a property sheet for those data. That's all that's going on there. Most of the time, you're going to be working with commercial products that will give you a beautiful report with very, very little work. Okay? But I want to let you see kind of what's here and kind of go through a little bit of pain so you can kind of go, okay, then if I really want to look, I may want to go back and throw it into Excel, embedded in Word, something where it's a little bit more manageable and not as ungainly. Okay. Now, they come down to task number 3, okay, and says Brooks would like to discover which drug companies produce the drug he sells under each drug code, okay. Design and produce a report that presents all the quarter's transactions sorted by drug code. He says within each drug code, sort alphabetically by supplier. Include all the appropriate fields, including the drug name and the supplier, okay. Lots of information requested there, okay. Now, let's talk about that for just a minute. So I'm going to click Create, and I'm going to do a query design, and I'm going to add the cascade table, okay. Now, design producer report presents all the quarters transactions selected by drug code. Well, I think we've kind of done that. But let's just look at this for just a second. Okay, drug companies. So let's go ahead. We'll keep that. And I'm going to go ahead and click Create. Let's just play with it for just a minute. And then we want to do the query design. I'll add that. And then we're going to get the drug code. Okay. And then we want the supplier. And then we want each drug code. Okay. So we've got the drug code and the supplier, and he wants us to do this with each drug code and sort alphabetically by supplier. So we're going to do the drug code, okay, and then we'll put the supplier in ascending order. And let's do, we've got milligrams per tab. Let's add milligrams per tab. Tabs, and then we'll do a total usage, and we can just use this again. I'm just kind of playing. One of the things you're going to discover, especially with these, especially with some of these queries, is you can take kind of some different approaches to them, and it's not that big of a deal. So we click up here, we got the total milligrams. Now, all we have to do is dump this. Oh, we want the date too. Let's go back down to the design view. My apologies. And I want to get the date. Okay, let's look at that now. There we are. Then it's just simply we've got it. Well, we've got it done by supplier, and we're going to call this. I'm going to save it as TASKTHREE, task 3. Okay. We'll close it off. Then we could do the create, and we'll do the report wizard, and we'll get the task queries, and we get query task 3, and we're going to get everything. We'll click next. And we're going to group it by date. Then on the grouping options, we want that by quarter. That's one of the limitations or problems with Access, is if you use dates, they make to do the report, they make you put the date right out there first if you use the wizard. Otherwise, you go in and into design view, you create a label, you create an inbound text box, and you pull the data in. And it's just a lot of work to get something sorted out by quarter. Then we want the drug code, okay? And oh, wait a minute here. Day by quarter, I don't want to do that. Back. I'll go next. No, we'll get that off. We want the date by quarter, and then we want the drug code. There we go. And then the supplier. And we want the total milligrams, and we're just going to do total milligrams dispensed. Okay, and in summary options, click detail and summary. And we'll click OK. Next, and I'm going to put it in landscape this time because it's going to be a big cross. And there we are. And we don't have too much to do there, but again, you can see you'd have to go into that layout view and move some of this stuff over. Okay, it's just simply a matter of clicking on that layout view and moving stuff over. That's all. Yeah. So it becomes kind of a tedious bunch of stuff to be doing this. All right. Fortunately for you, you'll be using a product. This is kind of just a raw product in that sense. They just really the people who do Access really never expected too many people to do reports because they have Word, you have PowerPoint, you have Excel, and they figure what a lot of people do is just take the data and dump them in a place where they're more easily handled. So the report function in this is very, very poor. It's not very good at all. But, and we'll save that as task 3. If you want to, you can play with it. Now I'll show you a pretty one, I think. Yeah, not too bad. Still some work needed there. Okay, so thus far what we've been doing is we've been doing some grouping, okay, and then subgrouping. Not any big deal there. Now, on task number 4, he's frustrated by the slow delivery of supplies by Roche, and he wants to talk to them, and so he wants to find out everything they buy from Roche. Okay. All righty, that's going to be task 4. So if you look at the query over here, click on it, and we'll go to the design view, and you're going to see, first of all, we use the cascade table, okay? We have the date, okay, and the drug code and the supply. And notice under here the supplier name Roche, and that's the criterion that we use to get that. So we just run the query, and it gives us everything by Roche. Now, let me show you something that's a little bit better way to do this. Go back down to the design view. And when you come over to the supplier, uncheck the box. Okay? And then at the top, click Save. All right? And let's look at it. And we see, now you say, oh, okay, but what about Roche? Okay. Well, we'll fix that because I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just simply rename this. And this would be Roche supplies, for want of a better term. Now, when I open it back up, this new title of the query telegraphs to us who this is. Okay, that's really all there is. We just rename it. And so if you go down to the design view, you're going to see that Roche is, it's still in there, but with it unchecked, it doesn't show up. So you don't have it going Roche, 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 Roche. You use that up here, Roche Supplies is the name of the query, and you're good to go. And then you could just simply produce the report. And I'll click create. Let's go to the report wizard. And I'm going to query Roche sales. So Roche supplies, excuse me. I'll put everything over there. Boom. And I'm going to group it by date. My grouping options, I'm going to do it by the quarter. I'm going to do it by the month here, just for something different. And then I'm going to hit the drug code and then the drug name. And I'm going to click next. The summary options, I want to get total usage, I want to get the sum. And I'm going to get the detail and summary and click OK. Click next, next, and there we be. And again, a little bit of work to do in the layout view with it, but not that much. So we've pretty much done task number 4. And again, this all started just by simply we use the criterion for Roche. And that's over here. And then we played a little trick. We renamed the query so it would, telegraph that to us. That's still out of there. We hit it. Okay. That's all that's going on there. So far, nothing terribly exciting. Now, on question number 5, task 5, at the bottom of page 193, okay, they talk about the system, blah, blah, enter a new customer, fill a prescription, and I'm going to close this off for a minute. The reason I would create this form is very simple. Each time I have a new transaction, okay, if I have the same supplier, okay, the same quantity, even the same date, as long as I have those auto numbers, okay, every time I add a new record, it will not save unless I have that auto number, okay, which gives us some occasion to go back over here to the table for a moment and talk about it. Let's go back to the Cascade table and go into the design view, and let's look at what we got going on. We have the transaction ID, the auto number. That's fine because it forces us, the record won't save unless we have the next number. We have a date, and it's not required, okay, which is kind of stupid. Now there's a format. If you look down here in the field properties, you'll see month /D/YY, month, date, month, day, and the year, but just the first 2 digits. That's what's going on there. And if you go back up to the top here, you'll see what they did. Okay, this is to save space. Now, required. I would want this to be required. I want to know the date. So I'm going to change it to yes. Okay, indexed. I want this indexed, and on index put yes, no duplicates. Okay. And you say, why did you do that? First of all, I want that date in there. Okay. Oh, I'm going to have multiple. Yeah, I can have multiple cells on the same date. So I'll say yes, duplicates. Okay, I'm sorry, Earth domain. So you're going to change that. So in the field properties, this is where the rubber hits the road in terms of the formatting of these data and whether they're required or not. Okay. If you don't have the date of the transaction, it's kind of stupid. But I've been out there and seen some of this drug code. You absolutely, you want it required. You're dealing with drugs, allow 0 length. I'm going to put no. Then you're going to get anomalous data. Yes, duplicates are okay because you can sell drugs with the same code. I'm going to come down over here on the drug name. Is it required? Yes, I'm going to require it. Index, I want those. Yes, I want an index. Duplicates, okay. All right, and the same thing with supplier. Now, what I'm doing is I'm building some integrity into the data, and Is it indexed? Yes, I want it indexed. We'll talk about that for just a minute. Yes, duplicates, okay. And then tabs, required, yeah. And indexed, pardon me, on the index, we want it indexed. And duplicates, okay. And then on milligrams per tab, I definitely want that required. And on indexing, I want yes, duplicates, okay. And then we will go upstairs, and once we go to the data view, you'll see you want to save these changes, yeah. And we get all kinds of warning about data integrity issues or something, but that's not the case. Now, here's the deal. From now on, I have to have a complete record. Okay, and if I don't have a complete record, it won't save. If it does, it will give me an automatic number for the transaction ID, the date. I've got to have that, the drug code, the drug name, the supplier, the tabs, the milligrams per tab. I got to have that data. The record won't save without it. Okay, that's why what we've done here is transform this into a true transaction table for a very simple reason. We actually have all the transactions. And it gives me occasion to talk about the indexing part. So let's go back down into the design view and let's look at the drug code part. And you'll see that we say, is it indexed? Yes. Duplicates? Okay. All right, you say, what's the point? The reason I use an index in a database is simple. The index is a shortcut for the machine to go based upon the type of data you're entering and find the results faster. It'll go where it thinks the stuff is, okay? Let's imagine that there's a fire a block away from here, and we can see the house that's on fire over here, and we can see the smoke and the flames. Now, wouldn't it be kind of stupid if we went outside and went as far north as we could, as far west as we could, and far east as we could, and go, man, there's a fire somewhere. We'd go over there because we could see it. The index is the same principle. Now, this is stuff that the people over in computer science study all the time, on what we call data structures. And certain kinds of data stick together. Last names would be the example that's probably the best, because out of those letters in the alphabet, there's just a certain set of them that people are named. Very few people are named with a Z. A lot of people named with an S, Smith. A lot of them with a J, Jones. But and so an index lets the machine do a much faster search. Now, it doesn't make a big, it's not a hill of beans. And when you start talking, 50 records, you talk 50,000 or 500,000 records, and now you're talking money. Because it costs money for that machine to be operating and for you to store all that stuff, and you want to retrieve it as fast as possible. And that's how you're going to do it. So you want everything, and I might even, no, I wouldn't use an input mask for that, but we're good to go there. So now we've done some work with the table where it's actually useful for us, okay? Now, back to this issue about the data flow diagram, okay? So you'll want to close this off, okay? Okay, and you're gonna call it Cascade 1 or whatever you do, and upload this now for access case 5, because you've done case 5 basically. We have one little bit task to do with it, okay? And I want to find the data flow diagram for this and let you see what it looks like. And I'll find that. Okay. I do have this for you. Here's some resources for data flow diagrams and how they work, and you can go ahead and copy and paste those in. And we'll, let's see if I can, I think I might have one on here too. I thought that I did. If I can find it here real quick. It may be, I may have one over there in that supplemental website. Let me go back over here. Back over to home. And then I come down here. Look at these resources, because I may have it in here, but don't, I'm pretty sure I have an example of a data flow diagram. I may even have it in here in this week, but I'm not sure. Well, let's go over to let's just do this, okay? Let's go over here and let's open up Word. Let me go back to it. All right. Now, I'm going to open up a fresh doc. I'm going to click Insert, Shapes, and I'm going to come down to the flow charts. Okay. And I'm going to start with an input, and I want to find the input point. Here we go. Let's click this. Okay. This is manual input. Now, if you look at the bottom of, pardon me, at the top of page 194, okay, the second paragraph there, the customer enters the store and gives the prescription to the pharmacist. So this would be your first step, okay? The pharmacist goes to the computer and checks whether the customer is on file. So there's going to be a process there. Now, between these, you're going to want to stretch an arrow, but for now, okay, we'll just work with these, all right? And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click back here to insert. And I want my shapes. And this time I'm going to do a check for this. And I'm just going to do, and see if I want a predefined process is what I want. So that's a document, storage, alternate process, flowchart process. Okay. I want to insert that. Not being cooperative with me. But when I come down here, this very first one, I want to choose it. Okay. Now, like I said, each of these shapes have a meaning. And so what you need to do would be to come in and then put in the text each step. And this is like the customer enters the store. Okay. And they give the prescription. All right. Then they check to see if the customer is on file. This is a process. It's predefined, and then you just walk through each of those steps there in that paragraph, and that's what I'm after. Now, I know your first time at it will be kind of a kind of an interesting experience, but I understand that. And then you'll want to edit that, okay. Or add some text to it, and away you go. Now I'm going to close this off for just a sec. I'm going to go back and show you some of these we've got, and I think I have a flow chart for you. I'm going to go over here to the supplemental website. I'm pretty sure I have one for you that I can show you. It's if not, we'll go out and take a look at some examples of them. There's that supplemental website. And let's see if I can find a and I used to have a resource over there, a trip through the pharmacy. There's a flow chart symbols, flow chart tips, creating the series. And I had a link at one time that showed you all the steps that are involved in creating a farm, in creating a prescription. Let's see if I can find that for you. But we can do something better. So punching around like this. Let's just search for a data flow chart so you can see what they look like. Now, they've got a data flow diagram, so we'll look at that, and they have the symbols and all of that. Okay, and let me show. Here's one that we're talking. Here's a little bit of what we're talking about here. All right, and I'm gonna go over and take a look at it now. This is a nice little site that tells us what a data flow diagram does. And you'll want to, let's go ahead and up the size so you can see. Now, you can see that basically they've got, the user comes in, they process, and they order, and you can see that flow. And the process is the order, okay? And there's some shipping information. Now, there's also some data that they get, like the username, user address, and those are thrown into the ship products as well, along with the fulfillment piece, okay? So this is a little bit more complex because there's several things happening under each one of these than what the simple series of steps. But if I were going to do it, that paragraph, I would start with each sentence. I'd write each sentence, and then I go back over and take a look at the flowchart symbols and say, okay, what is this a process? Is this a decision? Am I putting this into a database? What's going on? Okay, and so you almost literally have to list, and I would do that. I'd just list each step, and then build with them. But I want to let you see these, okay, and maybe take a shot at just to see how well you can do with it. So let's pop back over here. And I thought I had one over here for you. Maybe not. Or chart tips. Hang on, let me check this one more time. Lots of stuff got lost in translation. Okay, great. Well, so much for that brilliant idea. All right. Okie doke. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of time. So that's number 5. And with number 5, do this. Here's what I want you to do. I think you can upload multiple files. So do upload the access file, okay? Then I'd like you to create the chart and just start with this. That middle paragraph on page 194, the customer enters the store. That first sentence is a step in the process. The pharmacist goes to the computer and checks whether the customer is on file. That's step number 2. Step number 3, if not, okay, the details are entered. So there's a decision point here. And then the next step, the prescription details are entered. Okay. Then a check automatically occurs to ensure the new drug does not interact with the medication used by the consumer. Because when we have the data on that customer, we already know, if we know what's in there, then we run a check to see if it's going to have an interaction. And so it's going to run a query on so there's a lot more going on there, but I want you just to see those simple steps. Because when you're in management, okay, or you're running your own company, or you're running somebody's company for them, or even if you're in a first line supervisor, at some point you're going to need to be able to sit down and list out a series of processes and how they fit together. And I think the Word with those flowchart symbols and the resources you've got out there to do that will help you. but it's just not all that, it's not that big of a deal in the sense of you just have to list those out and make sure you have them in the proper sequence and figure out what kind of thing am I making a decision? Am I storing data? What am I doing here? And that's to kind of get your juices flowing and thinking about that, so that when I've encouraged you to go into a business and look and see what's going on, that you start working through those mental processes of inputs, processes, outputs, decisions that have to be made, etc. And I think that'll be of some benefit to you. Now, I want to go for about another 15 or 20 minutes, and again, upload this because this is case number 4, or is it case 5? Case 4, it's Cascade Pharmacy, okay? So make sure you upload it. And I want to talk a little bit about database case 5, which is probably what I will do as the supplemental, or as a second recording, because we've been going on here now for about an hour and a half, so I don't want to go too much further. That case, Hollister University, is going to be just a lot of work of lists and doing some work with the tables, creating some dimension tables or lookup tables. And so I'll walk you through some of that process. And they talk about indexing in here as well, which we've already done. I'm over on page, and the task, database case 5 starts on page 202. Then they start to give, and then they have 5 tasks. They have 1A and 1B. Then task number 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then they add a bonus 6 ways to improve that database. And so what I'll do is I'll go through that and show you that. So you'll be able to upload 5. Really stumps me that I can't find that silly thing. It's got those. I should have that file. Hang on a minute here. Now here it is. I apologize. Let me go ahead and publish this, and at least you can see a working model. And this shows you a prescriptions path through a pharmacy. Now, if you're a management major, I assume you're going to be taking production and project management, or it's project and production management, whatever or that course. I'm not sure how it will be handled today, okay? But the project management piece is extremely important. I need to install the Flash plugin. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I hate that when they do that, but they're going to do it to me again. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can find, let's search for something new here for just a second. Let's just call this steps to fill pharmacy. Steps to fill a prescription. Thank you, Google. Now they're going to walk you through this. They start to give you some, this is it looks like from a general pharmacy text of some type. I'm hoping they would give us a nice data flow, but they're going to give us a lot of lists and that stuff. So I don't think that's going to work for us. All right. All right, I'll have to find it and dig up what I had there because I wanted to see the process to get that done. All right. Like I said, I'll start on 5, walk you through that. That'll be the second piece of this. I'll do it sometime this weekend. And so you'll have 4 and 5 you can upload. So if you've been working, you've been here tonight, thank you for all of you. Everybody showed up. Thanks. And let's do this. Make sure you go down to the desktop. If you got Cascade 1, submit that for your Access Database Case 4. Keep wanting to get ahead. And so when you come over here to ACCDB 4, upload Cascade 1. And you'll notice we've just done some simple sorting, filtering, not all of the computational work that we had to do with the last case. All righty. That's pretty much what I've got. So let me stop for a second and say thanks, so Allison, Carmen, Frankie, and Tyler. Glad to have you aboard. And anybody got any questions I can help you with? Questions? Yes.
Yeah, I got to ask you something about my grade here. Get a chance.
Oh, okay. On what? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Anybody else have a question? Yes.
The exam part 2, if we didn't get it turned in on time, can we get an exception on it?
Send me an email. Okay. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that just real quickly because it gives me a nice segue into what I'd given everybody. And if I'm not mistaken, I gave you, for example 2 is a screencast of how to get that done. The only thing that was different was the numbers, okay? And I'll just start here real quickly with it. And we cell A, okay, and the column number index. I'm going to stop right here now, okay? Now, when okay, in the first part of that case, I asked you to take temperature and volume of sales and put them in some type of order. Then take that data in that table and create a chart, a line chart. So you should have had a line chart there that you created. And really what would be the ideal would be an XY chart, because this is very similar to when we did the percent defective and the defective. So I'd want on the x-axis, I'd want the temperature, and on the y-axis, I'd want the sales. Because I'm asking myself, okay, is there an association between sales and temperature? Okay, that's that first part. Now the next part of it is taking those data and qualifying them. All right, and let me see if I can get this up to a full screen so you can all see it. I think you can. There's 2 ways you could do this: the hard way or the smart way. Okay, the hard way would be to write a nested conditional statement, if and string them all together and then give the output. The smarter way to do it would have been to use the VLOOKUP, and we talked about that in one of our cases where we used the VLOOKUP. Now, I like the VLOOKUP for a very simple reason. I don't have to try to write a conditional statement where I'm going to make mistakes. I might have too few parentheses on one side. I might forget to put a comma where I should. Any one of those kinds of nightmare scenarios, and I'm still trying to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. The VLOOKUP, okay, is the one to use anytime. There's also a function called the HLOOKUP, which looks horizontally. Okay. Now on the VLOOKUP, and I stopped this video right here, but here's the dialog box. the lookup value. What am I looking at now? If someone just simply took the examples I had, okay, looked at, and you would just change the numbers for those for the exam, you're going to come out and smell like a rose, because yeah, it's all the same. It's just different data. And here we have the lookup value, that's A1, all right? And look up in the formula bar, so you get input from two places. One's from the formula bar, and one is from the function arguments or the dialog box. Now, what you're going to see here is A1, that's what you're looking at, and then the table array. Now, in the table array, that's F3 to G5. And if you look up here, you'll see F3 down to G5. And that's the 83 in low, 98 in medium, 119 in high. Those are the ceilings, pardon me, the floors for each of those. Okay? So now I'm going to go, okay, here's the table array. So the table array is actually my lookup table. The sales or the temperature, I think of sales, and then the level. Then you put in the column index number. This is this next one. And I'm after column index, what? 2. Because I want it to tell me what category that value falls in. And I click OK, and I'm good to go. So I'll just pop this back, and you'll see it. This number will be 2. And we see our first result there is low, and then we should drag and drop it on down, and we'll see that that's correct. Low is 83 to 97. Okay. Now, is let me show you what I bet some people tried to do and did it unsuccessfully. To do a print screen, and you finished this. Now, if you are intrigued or interested. Here we go. I'll watch this. I'm just going to let you see how much fun this will be. And this is using nested ifs. Okay. And I'll have people who try these, or try if and. When you have something like this, use a VLOOKUP if it's vertical, it's a set of vertical numbers, or HLOOKUP if it's horizontal. That help? Okay. And I go through them, and you know, it's always amazing to me. Well, but it's just one of those things, just kind of figure out how to do that. Now, 7 is in low, volume 98 low. The medium is the trickiest of all of these. Now here's another one. A3 is greater than 118. It's high. It would be the output. And so this is a very simple nested statement. And when you hear, in my mind, when I hear a nested statement, I hear snakes or rats. Here's an if and. Okay, that would do pretty much that. All righty. Show. Anybody else? Questions? Okay, folks. Appreciate your time, and I'm going to stop the share on this and stop the recording, and we'll call it an evening. Thank you so much, and be looking for that second one that'll cover database case number 5. I'll stop the